Hey everyone, it's Tracy Martirana here from Holistic Wellness with Tracy. Welcome to my channel. This is the first of a new series I'm doing based on my book, 90 Days to Holistic Wellness, Balancing Your Body, Mind, Heart, and Soul. I wrote this book several years ago, but I think it's still really useful today. And I'm creating this so that maybe it pops up for you in the new year. But if you see this video any other time, jump in, start making some changes so that you can live a more healthy, happy, and balanced life. The idea behind this book is we have 90 days, which is about 12 to 13 weeks, to make many tiny changes. We create those changes, we solidify them into our daily habits, and then if you feel like it, go back to the beginning and start all over and take all of those habits up a notch. And you build and build and build until you are living a lifestyle that you are happy with. In this first video, I'm going to read to you the introduction of the book and also the first chapter called Holistic Wellness, which just sort of describes what I mean by holistic wellness. And then we're going to get into week 1. I will include timestamps to those down in the description box. So if this is your second or third time through these videos, you can skip over the beginning if you want and get right to week 1, your call. So let me read to you the introduction. My name is Tracy Martirana. I am a nutrition and wellness consultant, an herbalist, a yoga and meditation instructor, a mother, a wife, a daughter, a sister, and a friend. My passion is to help people get back to the basics of healthy living in a way that makes them feel fulfilled, happy, and healthy. Years ago, I was right where you may be, realizing that my current lifestyle was unfulfilling. I was feeding my body unhealthy, highly processed foods. I made excuses to avoid exercise, and other than working and raising my daughter, I had few hobbies or interests. Today, while I'm far from perfect, thank goodness, perfect is boring, I eat foods that nourish my body. I find ways to bring movement into my day. I meditate, and I find fulfilling work in helping others do the same. In other words, these days, I am living my life in a way that makes me feel fulfilled, happy, and healthy. Because you are reading this book or joining this video series, I assume you want the same thing. Thank you for allowing me to help you on your journey. Many people incorrectly correlate healthy living with boring food, a dull life, and an overall feeling of deprivation. I think this is because people have forgotten what healthy living really means. The world of technology and convenience has led us into bad habits that leave us feeling unfulfilled, stressed, and wore out. We sit way too much, and we eat foods that don't nourish the body. We choose zoning out in front of the TV over building relationships with people. We think of healthy eating as a fad diet and exercise as a chore. We don't give our minds a chance to rest. We don't nourish relationships, and we don't feed our passions. Healthy living is exactly the opposite of all of that. Eating real food that nourishes the body, that gives us energy to engage in fun activities. Just small amounts of exercise keep us limber and young. Meditation calms our mind and provides us with a sense of well-being, self-acceptance, and even helps us get a better night's sleep. Engaging our mind allows us to enjoy interests that we can share with others whom we care about. My goal is to help you take small, actionable steps over the next 3 months to slowly make changes that will support a healthy, happy, and fulfilling life. You might ask, if these changes are so wonderful, why not jump in and make them all now? That is a common question and a common mistake that many people make. It all comes down to positive and negative reinforcement. Let's say today you exercise very little, but a friend has convinced you to run a 5K with her next month. You set out to get ready for the race. You get yourself a new pair of sneakers, put them on, and jog for 30 minutes. Phew, it almost killed you, but you did it. You are so proud of yourself for taking this step to get ready for the race. Tomorrow rolls around and you realize you can barely walk. Have you been there, done this? Your whole body aches from the abnormal amount of exercise you put it through. The next day comes Oh no, day 2 is even worse as the lactic acid has caused every muscle to tighten and ache even more than yesterday. Day 3, things are starting to loosen up, but walking still hurts and the thought of climbing stairs still makes you wince. You think maybe you should try to run again if you really want to do this 5K, but your ankles are still tight, maybe even a little swollen. You decide this pain just isn't worth it. You call your friend and say, sorry, I just can't run. It hurts too much. The negative reinforcement won. You started off with great intentions, but simply took on too much too fast. The result wasn't a positive one. You suffered severe pain. This result does not reinforce the action that you wanted to take. However, if you slowed things down, started with walking for 30 minutes, then after a couple days you add in jogging just a few minutes throughout your 30-minute walk, you would add more minutes of jogging each week, slowly building your fitness level. Instead of pain, you would have the positive reinforcement of accomplishment, of day after day being able to move towards your goal. You would feel the exhilaration of physical exercise without the pain. You would feel positive feelings about the steps you're taking, and you would be much more likely to continue with these actions and slowly reach the goal you have in mind. You would obtain the benefits of your healthy actions. This is why New Year's resolutions rarely work. People bite off too much all at once and receive some sort of negative feedback that stops them from continuing on the path they desire. They give up. Face it, negative reinforcement really works, often better than positive reinforcement. That is why it is so important to keep changes small so that you minimize any negative effects. With this book, I'm going to walk you through small changes, and that would also be this video series, that you can make every week to slowly move in the direction of holistic wellness. We will build on these changes week over week. If you find you have a lot of work to do in any given subject, stay on that step for a couple of weeks to slowly make improvements. Then, when you're ready, you can move on to the next step. I set the book up for 90 days, but for many people, it takes longer. And truthfully, after 90 days, you will still have work to do. I suggest that when you finish the book, you revisit it again. Again, same with this video series. When you get to the end, go back to week 1. Take each improvement to the next level. We can all find ways to continuously improve our lifestyle choices. Even me, and I wrote this book. Haha. And that is exactly how I've made so many changes myself. Years ago, it was not unusual for my dinner to consist of Pop-Tarts and Pepsi. Right, that was many years ago, but still, I did it too. Once I decided I wasn't happy with how I felt every day, I knew I needed to make some changes. Like many others, I would jump into it with both feet and I would fail. I would try again, completely transforming my eating habits. I would try to eat nothing but healthy foods that I didn't even like, just because that was what someone told me healthy eating was. I would set my alarm and get up early to walk on the treadmill. Time after time, I would end up right back where I started, or even worse off. Why? Because I didn't care much for salads, I was not a morning person, and I hated the treadmill. I would rebound from these failures by grabbing a candy bar, refusing to exercise at all, and wallowing in self-loathing. Eventually, I realized that making these big, sweeping changes didn't work for me. I essentially gave up until I realized I didn't have to make such severe changes, and they didn't have to be all at once. I didn't have this book to follow back then, so my efforts were haphazard, and therefore it took me a lot longer than it needed to. But eventually, change after change, I slowly moved baby step by baby step from Pop-Tarts and Pepsi to quinoa and roasted vegetables. You can make changes too. Just remember to keep the changes small and build on them over and over until soon you will find you are living the life you desire. Healthy, happy, and balanced. And then this introduction chapter ends with a note that says, right off, I want to warn you, the changes we are making are not large and they are not hard. However, because we are making a series of these small changes, you do have to be committed. Life is all about priorities, and sadly, many of us do not live our lives in line with our priorities. It is so easy to procrastinate or ignore what you know is good for you. So as you start this journey, I ask you to take a moment and pledge to yourself that your health, your well-being, and your happiness are all priorities to you, and you will treat them as such. We only have one ride on this carousel that we know of for sure, and only one body to do it in. Together, let's do all we can to be sure our body, mind, heart, and soul can sustain the many years of bliss we fully intend on enjoying. That was the introduction. Next is the chapter on holistic wellness. Holistic wellness is more than just healthy eating. As a nutrition and wellness consultant and an herbalist, I believe food is medicine. Good nutrition and living close to the earth are important first steps in disease prevention and in living a healthy, holistic lifestyle. But there is more to it than just nutrition. Holistic wellness means to live in a way that nurtures all aspects of your being. The following graphic illustrates this example, and I'm going to try to show it to you now. Hopefully you can see it. In each box is body, mind, heart, and soul. And then I have a handful of items, activities, or topics that fit under each one. And just in case you can't read it, I will read them to you quick. Under body is nutrition, exercise, personal care. Under heart is time with family, friends, charity. For mind, lifelong learning, work, environmental care. And for soul, spirituality, religion, journaling, and time in nature. Making small changes in your behaviors regarding these aspects of yourself is the most sustainable way to make big changes in your lifestyle. You make a small change this week, another small change next week, then another and another, and before you realize it, you are living a much healthier and happier life. One thing to note, this book doesn't directly address vices. If you do an honest assessment of your lifestyle, you may identify some vices you would do better without. Maybe you drink a little more than you should, maybe you smoke or you gamble too much, watch too much TV. The list could go on and on. I find that when it comes to changing lifestyle choices, vices are the things people are most attached to. They are painful to quit, often even part of your identity. Therefore, the act of giving up a vice is often riddled with negative reinforcement, such as withdrawal and negative attitudes from friends that you share the vice with. Because of the negative reinforcement that comes along with giving up vices, it is often better to start your focus on adding positive habits or doing something new versus stopping an old habit. Eventually, all the positive changes will likely inspire you to take the deep dive into quitting a bad habit. Also, it's difficult to work giving up vices into this format of change since everyone's vices are so different. I'm not suggesting you ignore your bad habits, just allow yourself to release them naturally. As your lifestyle becomes healthier, you will find that vices slowly decrease. However, you may find that you have a habit that you need or want to address now. For this, I would suggest that you start slow. Remember, negative reinforcement works, so you must try to minimize it while creating some positive effects. For example, if you want to quit smoking, make positive changes that will indirectly affect your smoking habits. Going to bed a half hour earlier every day may be the catalyst for skipping that last cigarette of the day. Jogging or walking in the morning may help you move your first cigarette until later in the morning. Meeting with a non-smoking friend at a smoke-free restaurant for lunch may help you cut out a lunchtime cigarette. The focus here is not directly on reducing smoking. It's about making positive changes in other areas of your life that happen to affect your smoking habits. Before we get into week 1, I do want to add a disclaimer here. The changes that I'm encouraging you to make are indeed very small changes and healthy for most people. However, if you have a medical condition or a predisposition, I would ask you to talk to your doctor before you start making any changes. It's always a good idea to consult your doctor first, just to be safe. Week 1 is a focus on nutrition, specifically on fruits and vegetables. Now, at this point, I am no longer going to be reading to you out of the book. We are going to just talk it out. When I put the book together, I chose fruits and vegetables to be week 1 because I think that is the number one issue that people have, or the most common issue and the most accessible and easy to do something about issue. I feel like many people do not eat the appropriate amount of vegetables and fruits. In fact, the USDA recommends that we eat 5 to 9 servings a day, which is a lot. We also, number one thing to note there is it should be always more vegetables than fruits. So if you are trying to just get to the minimum of 5, I would say 3 to 4 of those should be vegetable and then 1 to 2 fruit. Also, variety is important. Eating the same 1 vegetable 3 times a day and the 1 fruit 2 times a day, yeah, that's better than a candy bar, but we want a little variety. Each vegetable, each fruit offers its own array of nutrition, and so you want that variety to make sure that you are well nourished. Let's have a little reality check about what a serving of vegetables even is. What does it look like? If you're eating a salad, you need 2 cups of leafy greens to be 1 serving of vegetables. You need about a cup of diced up vegetable to be a serving. So if you think about like the little spoonful of corn or the couple little broccoli florets that you might put on your plate, that's not a full serving, it's a cup. And when it comes to fruit, it's typically like if you're eating a whole piece of fruit, any medium-sized fruit like an apple or banana, that's going to be 1 serving. If it's a smaller fruit like a plum or a kiwi, you probably need 2. If you're dicing it up, thinking like fruit salad, it's going to be close to a cup. And for either fruit juice or vegetable juice, it's going to be a cup to be a serving. However, I also wouldn't encourage you to look to juice to be your serving. You lose out on a lot of fiber when you do juice. You are getting the nutrition, but you're also just getting calories without that nice bulky fiber to keep you full. And now take a minute to think about what you typically eat in a day. Be realistic. Maybe start your food tracker, write things down to really analyze it objectively. Where do you land? Are you currently eating any vegetables? Is it only maybe 1, maybe 2 servings? Maybe you only eat fruit. You're like, I get 5 servings of fruit every day. That should be good. Not good. We need both vegetables and fruit, more veggies, less fruit. Now, if you find that you are far away from meeting that 5 a day, that minimum of 5 a day, then I would suggest maybe stay on this topic this week for maybe 2 weeks and do 1 little step 1 week, take a second week to amp it up just a little bit more and then move on. You don't have to go all the way up to 5, but if you're not eating any vegetables, try to find a way to get a little bit in before you move on to the next week. Before we get into ideas of how to eat more, I want you to think about how you currently prepare vegetables. If you are using canned vegetables or you're only steaming fresh vegetables, maybe think about learning new ways to prepare your vegetables. I'm a big fan of roasted vegetables. I find almost any vegetable, if you roast it, tastes 100 times better than if you steam it, and especially better than if you pull it out of a can. But let's get into some ideas. To increase fruit, one of the easiest things you can do is put a fruit bowl in your kitchen and make either breakfast or like your afternoon snack a piece of fruit. If you're a fan of raw vegetables, I like to just on the weekend create a big bin of raw vegetables that I keep in my fridge, and then I turn to that when I need a snack. If you want to add in a little hummus or something to dip it in, makes it even better. But make sure maybe eat a cup of raw vegetables just throughout the day. Snack on it. If you're a big sandwich person for lunch, think about adding maybe sliced zucchini or cucumbers or tomato and green leaf lettuce to your sandwich. Make the meat and cheese a smaller amount and add more veggies. Also, if you're looking at lunch, maybe add some veggies to your sandwich and then have a nice cup of veggie soup, like a very heavy, very veggie soup, to be a nice good serving or two of vegetables in your soup. Another way to start off your day with some veggies would be making veggie omelets or quiches or frittatas. You can make that ahead on the weekend with lots of veggies. Load it right up so there's almost more veggies than egg, and then divide that up. It makes a quick weekday breakfast. When it comes to dinner, maybe think about always starting your dinner with a small side salad. Yes, you can use iceberg. That's an okay lettuce. It does count as a vegetable, but maybe consider amping it up and adding in some other greens that have like just a little bit higher level of vitamins and minerals. Any green food will work, and then add in as many little vegetables as you can, and then move on to your dinner. When you're thinking about dinner, maybe consider serving 2 vegetables so that half of your plate is made up of vegetables. So maybe you're having like a small piece of meat. Keep your portions realistic. So maybe a piece of fish, some sort of grain, maybe rice or quinoa, and then pick your 2 favorite vegetables, roast them up, maybe roasted broccoli and some carrots, or I'm not going to list them all. Just pick 2, or pick one that you really like and just eat a bunch of that, 2 cups of that as part of your dinner. Again, we do want variety, but you have to start somewhere. Add veggies to dishes. So if you are making a pasta sauce, you can actually take your marinara sauce and blend in some red pepper, like red bell pepper, not spicy, just red bell pepper. It adds a little bit of flavor without completely changing it, and it ups the veggie level a little bit. If you're having pizza, make it a veggie pizza. If you're kind of iffy about veggies on your pizza, dice everything up really small, and if you make your own pizza, you can put it on underneath the cheese, and that kind of helps get picky eaters to eat it. Another idea to get a little more fruit into your diet would be to have fruit for dessert. I know. It just doesn't sound great, but you don't have to have fruit for dessert on your birthday, but just on a weeknight when you finish your dinner and you're like, I just need a little something sweet, make it a cup of strawberries, or grab a banana or an apple or an orange or whatever floats your boat. Just have a quick snack of fruit that it's sweet. It will curb that sweet tooth that makes you want dessert. So have fruit for dessert. It's okay. And then my last thought here would be to come up with some vegetarian or very veggie forward meals. I'm thinking things like a very vegetarian stew, or I like to make grilled eggplant. So I take eggplant, I slice it long ways into steaks, grill it, and then put it on a baking sheet with like a little bit of marinara and then some Parmesan and mozzarella cheese on top. Stick it in the oven to finish off, and it tastes delicious. It's healthier than your standard eggplant parm. Yummy, and it's like it can be a full serving of vegetables. And then you can still have a salad or another vegetable on the side. Satisfying and delicious. So now I've given you some ideas, but what to do with that? In order to make this work, you need to make a plan. So I encourage you, I invite you, come up with your plan of what you're going to do, maybe just to add 1 more serving of vegetables to your day every day. Is it going to be an afternoon snack of crudité? Are you simply going to add a second vegetable to every meal you make this week? Maybe your focus is going to be on fruit because that's an easier place to start. So you're going to start having an apple or a banana or an orange every day for breakfast. Come up with a plan and then set yourself up for success. If you need to go to the grocery store, which you probably do, to buy the vegetables and the fruits that you're going to eat this week, go stock up. Prep them as much as you can when you have some time, probably on the weekend, but whenever it works for you. Prep stuff, get it ready to go so it's easy to do all week long and beyond. Maybe you've made it to the end of this video and you're thinking to yourself, actually, I think I do all these things and I think I actually eat plenty of fruits and vegetables. Then maybe your task this week is to aim for variety. Once you've dialed in that, yeah, I get 5 to 9 servings, try some different ones. Try to mix it up and eat some vegetables and some fruits that you don't normally eat. Thank you so much for joining me today. In the week ahead, I encourage you, add on lots of veggies and a few fruits, and then meet me back here next week when I release week 2 and we'll work on something new. Thank you so much. Have a great day.